recording is on. So excited. It's going to be awesome like a possum today. Okay. So, welcome, welcome. Of course, make sure to tell your friends. And no, we're not selling things. We're trying to get you into some kind of pyramid thing, thankfully. But I'm always appreciative for anyone tuning in. Again, it's going to be a good show today. We're mainly going to be talking about server stabilization and how that will affect your overall gaming experience as a player in these types of games. Of course, we will be focusing primarily on referencing to Infinity Kingdom content, along with what, well, essentially we're playing. But we will also make reference to other kingdom builders, anonymously, of course, and rightfully so. But let's go ahead and start off real quick with, and again, I always like to kind of ask these periodic questions. Now, for anyone, if you're just tuning in now, I'm sure we're going to get some more people, as it usually happens every week. We kind of get some slow build-ups just because it is a little early in the morning. But for those of you who have played, I guess a quick show of hands, because again, again, you can utilize the kind of hand request feature, but a quick show of hands on how many of you have played other kingdom builders outside of Infinity Kingdom. Just quick show of hands. Again, if you're on mobile or desktop or laptop, there should be a little hand button here on this channel that you can click on. It kind of lets you raise your hand or not. Okay, so just a few of us have played other kingdom builders here. Okay, awesome, thank you. I'll go ahead and dismiss that. Okay, now, for those of you who have played other kingdom builders, how many of you, when you first started playing, out of the few there, did you experience something when you first started playing that you didn't understand why it was happening, but it may have been a turnoff for you either playing that game or playing in that server or kingdom? Just curious. How many of you had like a turnoff moment in a kingdom builder you've played where you just didn't know what was happening? Whether it was you being attacked or something that happened in an event or someone DM'd you about something that you had no idea why, and you were just completely thrown off by it, right? And it could have been a turnoff for you. Okay, so just a few. Okay, so maybe like 2 or 3. Oh man, tough crowd. But okay, no worries. Thanks for letting me know. So, the reason I asked that is because I find it interesting, right? So let me talk about, first off, right, what I really mean by stabilizing your server or kingdom. Because as I mentioned, it is the by far most important part of, one, what every single player's gaming experience is going to be in that server, right, or kingdom. Right, the way that a server develops, along with how soon it can stabilize, is essentially meaning that you are patching the hole in the sinking ship. And now let me explain what I mean by that. So when a server opens, right, the typical trend we've been seeing is around 3 to 4 days, a server will stay open. That means that every single player that downloads Infinity Kingdom across those few days for that window, and then loads the game, will automatically get populated into the newest server. For those of you who watch my content on YouTube, you know I'm pretty adamant about talking about this when it comes to player retention, keeping player retention in your server and your kingdom, and then trying to keep activity as high as possible for as long as possible. And the reason why is because the more player retention you have in your server or kingdom, and the more activity you have, right, the higher morale usually you have, and you have better overall health in your server for a longer period of time. Now, this does a few things for you, right? Servers that are able to stabilize early, keep high player retention and high activity are going to be more set up for when it comes to something, and I'll just give a very simple example, something like Contention of Relics, right? Contention of Relics is based on overall player activity in your server, right? So if your server, if we take 2 servers and we compare, and let's say each server starts out with 10,000 players, but because one server, let's say server A stabilizes in a week, server B stabilizes in a month. And let's say because it takes server B that much longer, let's say they get down to 5,000 players, whereas server A maybe was able to get down to 8,500 or let's say 9,000 players. What that means is now there's a higher average chance of more players participating in an event like Contention of Relics, which, as we know, for people that have played Contention of Relics, right, gold is the most important resource arguably in the game right now out of the 5. Contention of Relics, for the most part, with the exception of, oh gosh, what was Infernal Assault? Yeah, it's the new event, right? With the exception of Infernal Assault, Contention of Relics is arguably still, right, the event that allows for you to kind of get the most amount of gold for the least amount of effort. And that's just because you don't have to sit there and kind of burn a plethora supply of AP by doing Infernal Assault, where you kind of have to attack the sub-cores and then the main core, right? So you kind of have to do 5 attacks altogether if you're doing it by yourself or doing a couple rallies mixed in. Because of this, Contention of Relics, the special tiles, which allow for the winning faction to get gold, are spawning based on the overall player activity that you have in a server. Or sorry, the overall player activity that you have participating in Contention of Relics within your server. So, if I have just connected some dots for people and you're having some Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast moments, I am happy for you. This is why it is so important that we really talk about server stabilization along with active and, more importantly, probably proactive player retention. Because the more players you have in your server that are active directly affects every single player's expectation and gaming experience in that server, right? Don't get me wrong, it's nice to go and, to go online and watch a video on how you can progress your account and how you can improve as a player and how you can figure out immortal pairings and matchups and talk skills. Even, we've now kind of been showing off, top talk skills or most used talk skills for all the immortals for kind of a big 30-day series that we're doing, even though it might be, who knows if it's going to be that many immortals that we cover. But the point of this is, player retention activity is directly connected to almost every aspect of a server. And just like I pointed out in Contention of Relics, right, the more players that are active in COR, the more special tiles spawn. The more special tiles spawn, the more gold, right? Because keep in mind, special tiles are free, right? The only prerequisite or requirement is just being active in each of the stage events. Now, if you're doing, let's say you're in a server and you're doing kind of an equal faction rotation, well, some players might think to themselves, well, why do I have to participate in COR if it's not my faction's turn to win? And I can't tell you how unfortunate of a thought process that is that some players do come in with. Because what they're not realizing is that if they have that thought process, what's to stop someone else in another faction or other players in other factions from having the same thought process, which means now because they think that, there's going to be less overall special tiles that spawn, right? You should be excited that you are hopefully stabilizing your server early enough to retain player retention and keep activity as high as possible. Because the idea there is that you want as many players participating in every COR, even if they're just doing the bare minimum, right? And that's fine as well. If they're just kind of completing their bare minimum tasks, or they're just doing it until they kind of get their complete contract rewards or tasks completed, right? That's fine. Those will still count towards one player's participation, which equals one special tile spawning. The more gold that you have, right, the more happy players in those factions are going to be, which means they're going to keep being remotivated to contribute and participate in those events, which overall now factor into server morale, right? So all of these things are directly connected and always fall back on why it is good to try and stabilize your server early. And we're going to talk about some of those ways as well. This is just kind of let me just give you one kind of home run out of the park example of how server stabilization affects your playing experience as a player and the server's overall development. Now, before I get into the next topic, does anyone have a question on what I just talked about? Because, again, we're going to dive into more specifics and give you some more examples, and we're going to touch up on some of the other outline points. But if anyone has a question, you're more than welcome to ask it in the voice channel chat. If you want to raise your hand and you want to come on voice, we're only going to be bringing on people that are current members of the server or have roles. So if you're a visitor or a guest, We just ask for you to please write your question out in the voice channel chat after you join the server. Let's see. Oh, sorry, let me take a look at voice channel chat real quick. Let's see. I only played for 3 minutes and then I quit. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think to your point, Tristan, I think the unfortunate part is that kingdom builders in general, and this applies for all kingdom builders, right? IK really isn't excluded of this, and it's not really a slight towards any of the games. But the fact is that kingdom builders do not have some kind of a tutorial on how to build your kingdom, right? Any kingdom builder you've played, right? There's never a tutorial on what you as a player can do to factor into developing your kingdom, right? Or what areas of kingdom development are important to focus on or think about, right? All tutorials in kingdom builders are primarily focused on what? Well, player development, right? It's progression based. They're telling you, right? It's an introduction to the game, right? Rightfully so. But there's no additional part that says, hey, you need to, you need to consider, right? Like, for example, like, let's say, like a good example would be, let's say you start an alliance. It would be nice if, again, there was a tutorial for after you start an alliance, even if it's a quick tutorial, that just kind of takes you through a couple quick tips of, hey, welcome, you're an alliance leader. You may find yourself needing to reach out and communicate with other alliance leaders to do diplomacy. So you can work out, right, land distribution or something like that, right? Or, hey, you're an alliance leader now, right? Recruiting is really important. Here are some ways that you can work on recruiting and get people in here. Maybe you should write up a recruitment message that you can post in Kingdom Chat. I mean, these are just, again, brief examples, but this is the type of content, or I should say type of information that is non-existent, right? You do not see that type of content in Kingdom Builders. Now, yes, would that be great if those things were added into these games as far as brief tutorials on development and management? Yes, of course. Do I think that the developers have really kind of thought about that, and that just goes for any and all developers? I just don't think so. I mean, we haven't seen it in any kingdom. At least I haven't. Again, albeit any new ones that might be in development or alpha testing, but at least for IK and for other kingdom builders like it, right? This is a non-existent thing that no one has ever done, right? You've never seen them come out, and what's even more fascinating about it is, and this is just going to be like I'm hoping my only little side tangent here, is that the entire genre of this game is built on building a kingdom, right? Like, everyone knows these types of games as kingdom builders. They don't know them as player builders. They don't know them as player account builders or player account progression builders, right? Like, they're not known as that. They're known as kingdom builders. So you would think that would be the primary focus, right? That the most interesting part about these games would be the fact that you are building a kingdom with thousands of other players, right? Not bots, real players. And that to me is the most fascinating thing, right? That to me is the most exciting thing about these games. Not the fact that I'm going to level my account and build it. Yes, of course, that's important. But that is not what gets me up every day. Right, that's not what gets me up to work with my R6s, my R5s, right, reaching out to other alliances in the server that we're in now. It's all of that, right? It's the diplomacy, it's the recruiting, it's the SVS management, it's the ICE data collection on pulling information from other servers and scouting them ahead of time. It's building relationships, the social aspect. Right? I mean, I'll give you an example before I kind of get back on track here. We had an impromptu management meeting yesterday for our server, right, where we had officers and leads, and it really wasn't even a meeting. It was just me basically saying, hey, guys, we wanted to talk about a couple things. I just told people I'd be available. Literally in the next 10 minutes, right, we got 20 people. Almost all of our leads showed up, and about 3/4 of the officers from each of the alliances showed up. It was amazing. That is, to me, the exciting part about these types of games, right? It's building the server, developing it, communicating and messaging all the other leads, all the other officers, trying to get people organized in some kind of a fashion. Because the earlier, and again, this does reconnect and go right back to server stabilization. These are things that are extremely important to do, right? For those of us who have played KVKs, if you played SVSs, you know that these game modes are by far the most important in these types of games. And even though Infinity Kingdom has announced that SVS is in development, it's just a matter of time before it comes out, right? And that is the special sauce. It's really about seeing that and then thinking 20 steps ahead, right? One of the arguments I see made in like general chat as an example would be. And just to let people know, right, if you're just joining us now, welcome. You're more than welcome to discuss and talk in real time in voice channel chat. And if you have a question, you're more than happy to raise your hand, whether you want to ask a question in voice channel chat or you want to ask it over voice. We just ask that only people who are current members of the server or have roles are able to ask questions and come on voice. If you're a visitor or a new member just listening in, still welcome, but you're more than welcome to ask your question in the voice channel chat. So the reason I say that is because the most important part about how you can develop your server and looking towards SVS, and some of the comments and debates that I'll see in general English chat, is that, you know, because the mode isn't out yet, there's no, you know, why would we care about it, right? Because SVS isn't out, I can't actually play it. It's not tangible. It's not right in front of me. I can't load into it. Right? Why would I care about building my server for longevity? And what I will say to that is there's two sides. One side is that, yes, right, you don't necessarily need to build your server for longevity because SVS hasn't been announced. You should just be building it for longevity regardless of SVS being announced or not, because of the fact that it affects every single player in your server. Right? One of the reasons why they're always having new servers come out is also in part because, right, spenders like, you know, again, right, there's always going to be spenders that want to be at the top of the boards, right, and that obviously appeals to them. That's at least one factor of why new servers always come out. That's a pretty consistent model. That's never going to change. And again, kind of goes without saying. But the other reason is because you're always having players that may want to re-roll. Right? Again, especially with jumper projects that have kind of been around for a while across Kingdom Builders, right? That's another factor that's going to affect new servers, in addition to players that just want to restart. Maybe they want to re-roll with friends, whatever it may be, right? There's quite a few reasons on why players would go to new servers or even just re-roll and play multiple accounts. But with that being said, it also gives us, as players, the best chance to basically re-roll our percentages of being able to then try and get to an ideal server state. So yes, anyways, so before I start really diving into more of the technical part of, right, how you can actually go about, what are some good practices to stabilize a server and a kingdom, again, kind of with me just kind of giving you the overall scope of what the benefits and how it can really affect players and what the kind of short-term and long-term goals and outlooks are going to be or are for it. I will talk a little bit about, right, when you get into a server from day one, what are some good practices, what are some things you can do as leaders, officers, or even players, right, to affect your server's development. So that's going to be the next, I guess, subtopic or outline point that we touch on. Before that, does anyone have a question on anything I just talked about? And again, if you're raising your hand, as long as you're a current member or you have roles, we will call on you. Otherwise, if you're a visitor or guest, then please just ask your question in the voice channel chat. And I'm just going to get some agua. Please excuse my parchness. All right, let's see. Okay, Charmaine, you're new to Discord. That's okay. Probably doesn't have his mic on or her mic on. All right, let's take a look here at voice channel chat. Miss J asked, any idea when SVS will be introduced? Yes, it's coming tomorrow. No, it's not. No idea at the moment. So yeah, all we know is that it's in development, and they will most likely announce when it does. What I will say, in regards to, what I will say is that in regards to SVS, if we look at AVA or Illusion Battlefield, right, we were told pretty early on that, well, I don't know if I'd say super early, but we were told with advance notice, I'll say that much, that AVA, or this game's Alliance vs. Alliance variation, which is Illusion Battlefield, right, was in the works and going to come out. They then released it, a month after? They kind of initially started giving us a little bit of sneak peek on the event. So it came out pretty quick. Now, yes, some people have made the argument that maybe it was just a feature or a game mode that was already being worked on, which is also the reason why it came out as fast as it did. And AVA, and SVS maybe was just something that, they weren't planning on releasing, but now they're working on. Right, so I think regardless, the fact that they've announced it's being worked on, and in addition to everything that the developers have said so far, they have followed through on, right? If they say something is coming out or something's going to be released, they have never lied to us as of yet, and that is also to say thankfully. So with that being said, right, in at least my eyes, I think they have a good track record of following through on things they say are going to come out. With that being said, it is just a matter of time at this point. Under that assumption. So hopefully it will come out sooner than later. I mean, again, right, they just kind of passed the 6-month anniversary. I know they did that big 6-month anniversary. I don't know if it was a post. I can't remember if it was a post or if it was the system mail that they sent out. But some of those things they talked about having more server versus server or cross-server events, right? I think that also hints at the two big things we're waiting to have come out, right? Which one is SVS, 2 is the game-wide arena, which I think is just going to be dope. I mean, out of other Kingdom Builders I've played, I've never seen them implement a game-wide, at least for the ones I've played, I've never seen them implement a game-wide arena. Usually it's server, it's internal server events, right, of you being able to go in and kind of do 1v1 matchups, or it's, internally within your kingdom, but it's usually never cross-kingdom, with the exception of, like, if you're going into a KVK or an SVS, they might have those in some games. But to actually have a game-wide arena system that they're working on, I'll be honest, I think it's genius. I think there are a lot of things that we're going to be able to look at and really pull amazing data from after that's implemented. Right, one of the things that comes to mind is just kind of being able to almost keep up with the current meta. The way that Arena plays out is very similar to how a PvP engagement plays out. And that's under the guise of the fact that you cannot manually control skills. You just kind of have to watch the match play out, right, from you as the attacker. So that is very similar to if you're going and attacking another player's city, on how that engagement may play out. At least, again, it's not going to be exact because, of course, someone you're playing in Arena is not going to be the same person, right? You're most likely going to be fighting on your server, right, or in SVS. In addition, they could have different immortal matchups. They could be using different skills. Things can be different level. There's a lot of external factors. But as far as being able to test out compositions, that I think is going to be great. We're going to really be, I think it's going to take the game to the next level of really, really doing a lot of amazing theory crafting, of us being able to have to finally get a real in-depth look at late game compositions, see what players are making, what kind of customized talk adjustments for counter matchups. I think it's going to be amazing to see. So, but yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I think Snowball, that's a good point. It's definitely going to give opportunities to find more fair matchups, especially because you're just going to have a wider pool of players to battle in that, which just means that you're going to have a more higher chance of having players that are closer to your March power, or finding people that are closer to March power. So it can really kind of come down to hopefully a little bit more tactical play and outsmarting with good talk support skills and good lineups. All right. Yeah, let us. Let's see. Oh man, I finally got my first person. I was going to call on Yusa, but it's okay. Can always come back. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. I feel so bad. I'm totally like neglecting all my in-game stuff. But okay, let's move on to our next, which again, we're going to talk about a little bit here on what you can do early on in your server to further stabilize. Right? What are some things now? And again, I want to pass the question off to you guys first on what do you think as players, in whether you're playing in a server currently or even if it's a new server, what are some things you think could happen or even should happen maybe within the first week of a server? What are some things you think can help in stabilizing a server within the first week, right? Regardless if you're a player, you're an officer, right? Let me know in the voice channel chat if you want to type it out or even if you want to voice it. But let me know. What do you think are some things that can help a server stabilize early on? Oh man, so nice. So nice to hit Castle 34, because then I can build my last dwelling. Ah, it's amazing. Sorry, random thought there. Alright, let me see. Snowball said one thing. Thank you, Captain Snowball. Let me see here. Snowball wrote, not going on a rampage and force port anyone you see, especially if you've been paying. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with a hard yes on that. For not yes, for not having rogue, I guess a rogue player or well, to be fair, I think almost everyone does not want to have rogue players in their server that are just going around and attacking any living being that they see. But specifically for that, yes, I think not going around in general, not going around and just attacking anyone the moment that you load into a server, yes, can obviously extremely help, and can be something that probably in most part is probably the biggest thing that can really factor into you getting at least at a neutral point, which can help server stabilization by just not going YOLO Brick Squad 420 on anyone's face. So, no, definitely in agreement there. Jesse said. Jesse, did I answer your question from yesterday? Yeah. I mean, in regards to that, Jesse, what I will say for the question that you did ask yesterday is, and I think the person who commented right after probably really summed it up best, I would say just do that stuff at your own risk. That would be my official stance. Obviously, it is something that is against TOS. So, again, that's why I say do it at your own risk, right? And make sure that you educate and inform yourself on what you're getting into before you do it. Because at the end of the day, right, it is your choice as a player whether you engage in that type of conduct or not, even though we don't condone it. Right, just I mean, I would say like anything in life, be informed, right? Educate yourself before you do something, because if anything goes bad, then sure, you might be able to blame, I mean, if you want to put blame on someone else, but again, the blame is also equally yours for engaging in that type of conduct. So, yeah, that is my official stance on it. Let me see here. Snowball said cooperating with major alliances that have formed in that week to establish server rules. Okay, no, okay, another good one. Another good one, Snowball. Hey, I'm Snowball. You trying to be my class rep, bro? Trying to be, or my bad, I shouldn't say bro. You could be a girl. I could say grill. No, not grill. That's probably not right. I'm just gonna go with person. So there we go. But yeah, no, I think that's another good point. Is no, we don't say that. We say grill. Grill. That's the new one. So, but okay, yeah, cooperating with major alliances that have formed in that week. Yes, I think a big part of that, and we'll dive into that here in a little bit as well. Zaximilian says the number one thing early on is to create a mythos beyond what the game provides. Ooh, man, we're really diving into these M&M big words. I love it. Having a sense of ownership over player goals that is unique and inspiring lasts a long, long time if maintained and applied consistently. I feel like this guy is reading from my Bible, like my 10 Commandments on Kingdom Builders. Okay, in short, a unique style of play, whether individually or by alliance. So yes, some broad and vague language, but I think the essence of it is just defining. It's something that we talk about a lot, which is just defining a server early. Right, and again, stabilizing isn't really just a matter of plugging a hole. It's also a matter of plotting a heading or a course that your server should go in, aka the direction that your server is going. And that can be by doing a few things, right? By setting up server goals, short-term and long-term plans, how you plan to manage certain events, right? What are the kind of PvP rules that you have in your server, which obviously are kind of a daily direct affectance on players in any server. Just to name a few, right? These are things that it's always good to kind of define early. We'll dive a little more specifically into that later as well. Hardest says, in my server, we are the top 1 alliance in the server. Must be nice to be the 1%. No, I'm just joking. In the server, and we don't know. Let me see. In the server, and we don't know if we get all Zone 3 cities to get the troop buffs for our best fighters inside the kingdom, or if we will try splitting a bit with the top 2 to 4 in our kingdom. We'd like to go with the Bex option long term. What are the pros and cons? Okay. But before I dive really into server specifics for early on, I will answer this question first. So, let me see here. Harness says, so yeah. What I would say is, Hardest, what server are you in? Is it 30? Why do I think you're from 32? Yeah, I'm totally off there. 57. I don't know why 32 came to mind. Okay. Man, you're so lucky. I only have an account up to 56. I'm not in 57 right now. Dang it. Otherwise, I would totally look there. That's actually my hope today. I need to try and make 10 new accounts so I can catch up to 60 and eventually get my way up there. But okay. So, I was going to say I could totally go in and look at your server real quick. What I would say, generally speaking, on my rule of thumb that I really like to go off of is... But first off, let me talk about the pros and cons. So because I don't really know what's happening in your server, what I would say, just by default, is if you take all of the Zone 3 cities, which is going to include 7 level 7s, 8s, and then the 9 capitals, I believe, at that point, you're really making a public statement that, you're just kind of have the best stuff for yourself. And then in addition to that, and what I will say is probably the most, and again, I'm probably going to blow your mind away with this one, is that the reason it's actually not the fact that you are, or I should say in that scenario, it's not the fact that you would be taking all of the arguably highest level cities, which some players would convert that to the best cities. It's more about, because you would be taking, I guess, I'm sorry, you said Zone 3, but I would imagine you really mean Zone 4. Is that what you mean, Hardest? Just to confirm. Okay, I was going to say it, because typically, I was like, hang on a sec, because Zone 3 is 5 to 7, or yeah, a level 5 to 7 cities on average, and then well 7 specifically, including capitals. So, but anyways, so what I would say there is that the biggest challenge really is not necessarily that you would be taking the RSS Zone 4 cities. It's really more that you would actually be taking away all of the RSS Zone 4 districts. And what I mean by that, and this is pretty much like a new frontier way of how we have been doing city distribution. And again, for anyone who's watched my videos, you might have actually heard me hint at this, and I'll probably be making a more detailed video on it later. But there's 9 cities that are in Zone 4. It is much more than just, hey, are we going to take all these cities or not, and then kind of look at the pros and cons later, right? So let me talk about the pro version of that. Is that yes, you're going to get 3 cities, 3 capital cities, along with right the zone with the RSS Zone 4s, in addition to already leveled cities, right, which obviously is going to make it harder for anyone to kind of cap a city back from you depending on how your server is. But what I would say is the biggest con to, if you go that one way out of the 2 options, and we'll talk about the second in a moment, is that you're actually crippling the player development in your server overall, and that's because in RSS Zone 4, that gives players access to the highest level gnomes, the highest level gnome bosses, and then more importantly, the highest level RSS tiles, and additionally, on top of that, more importantly, the highest bonus additional RSS gathering that they get from controlling the district. So those are 4 of the biggest things that all RSS zones give you, with Zone 4 being most important. So the idea there is really to try and give, in my opinion, 9 alliances, 1 district each in RSS Zone 4, because then you're really spreading the wealth, and you're going to increase your player retention and overall activity as well. Now, if, let's just say your server doesn't have 9 active alliances, then of course you can make adjustments. And then obviously it also depends on what your relationship is with other alliances. There's other factors that go in, obviously, with me not knowing all of the details. I really could only speak broadly on what the long-term implications are if you take all of them. Even if you only have a couple active alliances left, right, it still could turn out to be detrimental, more so than it would be positive. So if you plan to share those Zone 4 cities or districts, that would usually be my recommendation overall, at least between the 2 options. Anyways, let me go ahead and... Sorry, Zach says, let me clarify, this isn't about technical, strategic, or tactical methods. Have a story, build a narrative, otherwise any player or alliance is a little more than a database of numbers and expenditures. No, I definitely 100% agree. I think giving players in a server a reason to play there over other servers, and as you said, building a narrative and really just building a defining characteristics that make playing in this server over another server more enjoyable. Something that people can really believe in, right? A storyline, if you will, I think is extremely important. So I think Zach definitely kind of hit the hammer on the head there. Right? I think it's great, right, when servers can stabilize, if you can get multiple different leaders in the same room talking to each other. That's phenomenal. But I think the next level to it is, yes, really, really building something that is bigger than you just telling people what server goals are going to be. As an example, in Server 79, right, we tell people, or I shouldn't say we tell, but right, we educate and we inform people on the type of server that we want to build, right? And a good amount of those things are beyond us just coming out with server goals and how we're going to manage events and like letting people know, what these things are going to be. Right, we take it a step further and tell people, we're building a community here. We want to get people onto the Kingdom Discord. We want to socialize. We want to engage. Right, we want to try and build a super server. Right, for something like SVS. We are inclusive of everyone. Everyone has an equal opportunity to grow and develop, and we take those things very seriously because we're proactively messaging alliance leaders, the top 300, probably every couple days. Right? These are things that other servers, I can guarantee you, do not do. Why? Well, first and foremost, it takes a lot of work because you have to draft a message or multiple messages, and then you have to actually go and scroll down through each individual alliance lead and message them individually. Because when a server first starts, right, I'm going to segue a little bit now going into, right, so get your popcorn and Coke ready, or your Sunny D, as my buddy Shadow would say, is, right, when you really are working to stabilize a server, and it doesn't matter what direction your server's going in, right? If you want to be a war server like Server 5 or others, if you want to have server-wide PvP, when kill event comes up, if you want to do kill event in the Forbidden Zone, if you want to do it in limiting it for safe zones throughout the server, if you tell people Titan Tool is a free-for-all, right, it doesn't matter. However you want to manage your server, right, if you are the leading group or entity there, right, as long as you define the server, as long as you define it early on so people can choose whether or not they want to stay there, then that is the most important thing. Right? It's not really good if you define a server at month 3 and then people are like, wow, I've been building here thinking that everything's okay, and now they're hitting us with, a complete foundational rule change and objective change for the server. No. You want to try to educate, inform, and define your server within as early as possible. If you can do it within the first week, even better. And as I said, the big reason there is because the earlier that you do it, the sooner players will know what type of server they are going to be playing in, therefore giving them the opportunity or choice to stay or leave. Right, and usually, most servers will probably find out that the majority of their players are going to stay. Some of that could be because they just don't want to move, which is probably going to be the majority of that half, or the majority of that majority that are staying. But then you're going to get the more engaged players that are probably like, you know what, this isn't that bad, so, I'm going to stay here and see how it plays out, right? You're going to get some players that will do that as well. But there's just more benefits to letting people know up front as a professional courtesy than it is not telling them at all. So, now, kind of getting to the next thing, right, which is informing. Well, it's not even that. Let me back up. If you are not going into a server with a group, and specifically what I mean by group is a group of alliances, which, again, is always going to be the minority amount of servers, just because preparing a jump group or even a project does take time. Now, the majority of servers are usually going to be what I like to refer to as just kind of a Hunger Games free-for-all, right? It's individuals that are creating alliances with varying levels of experience and knowledge in Kingdom Builders or lack thereof, and it's just getting all of these different individuals into a room together for the first time to discuss things. So, right, your first task when you're getting into a server really should be, as a leader and or officer, but for the most part leader first, you should be reaching out to players. You should be reaching out to other leaders and going down the list, right? If you want to message the top 20, you want to message the top 30, the top 50, all right, however many, right? My recommendation would probably be messaging, I would like to say, anywhere from like the top 33 to maybe the top 50, just because you're probably going to get some merges that happen later on, and some of those positions can probably move up or down just depending on activity. And then from there, what I would do is you message them, right? You can draft up a nice little template message, and you let them know, hey, I'd like to, I'm a leader of this alliance. I would like to try and put together, whether you make a Discord just to invite leads and officers in, right, to try and have discussions. But you just let them know, hey, I'd love to communicate. I'd like to discuss where everyone kind of sees the server going. And that's really the first step, is just getting people, one, to respond, and then two, getting them to join, right? Whether that be a group, a temporary Discord server, right, or even just, kind of a management server, whatever it may be, right? But trying to get everyone on a platform to discuss these things. Now, yes, if they ever come out, which I hope and I want to believe they're going to, which is going to be something like an in-game chat system that allows for you to make group chats in-game with anyone in your server, not just with members of your alliance. I really think that's the next step they need to do, which is either doing a friends list, which I think would be the best, is just make a friends list and then allow for people to make group chats game-wide, which would be best. But if they want to do it in stages, then of course at least start out with being able to do that for everyone in your server. That way you can make a group chat with leads in-game, and then that way you have kind of the translation system already built in. Right, that is what I think probably needs to be the next big step they do for building on the in-game chat system. Because at the moment, the foundation's good, but there are a lot of amazing pieces that they can add onto it. So I think that needs to be your next step, right? Again, reaching out, communicating, and then from there, you may get to a point where you're then going to start finding out kind of who are the alphas, who are the betas, who are the greenies, if you will, and right, and then maybe even who some of the pawns are, to an extent. And what I mean by that is you're going to have some players or some leads that are going to be more outspoken, they're going to be more outgoing, they're going to be more assertive of themselves than others will. And so with that, right, you'll probably find out who are more of like the conversation leaders, who are more of the initiators, who are the people that are really either pushing an agenda or just very outspoken with their opinion, and probably everything in between. But at least getting everyone into a room is the first step, right? And then it's a matter of, right, proposing ideas for server goals, how to manage events, and, right, then, my biggest recommendation there is that anytime you propose something, have it be well thought out. Right? Don't just come in and say, oh, we should just make... Right? I mean, unless you're coming out with a suggestion like, hey, we should just have the entire server be free-for-all. Right? No rules. Okay, I mean, that kind of defines itself. But if you're actually coming in and you're saying, yeah, I think we should have... I think we should set up the server where, any and all PvP has to be done in the Forbidden Zone. Or anytime we have a kill event come up, right... RSS Zone 1 cities are the safe zone, right? Is it like something like that, but obviously you have to explain and further elaborate on what are the rules within what you're proposing, right? But that's the important thing, is just provide context, go into detail with anything you propose, and then hopefully maybe once a couple suggestions have been provided, then maybe you guys do a vote, right? Or however you figure it out, right? Hopefully the number one alliance in your server hasn't drank from the Kool-Aid too much and is now just thinking that, whatever they say goes, because that is something that can happen and does happen probably more often than you'd think. Okay. Now, after you have provided some suggestions, right, you're starting to kind of figure out where the other leaders are leaning. You're starting to figure out, are the leads being a little bit more, are people a little bit more agreeable? Are we actually getting somewhere that, that players are happy to see? Does it feel like we're progressing forward? Does it feel like we're not really going anywhere and it's probably just going to turn into some kind of PvP fest where people are just going to end up fighting over cities, right? Once you get an idea as a leader where you think the server is going to go in, which again factors always back right to server stabilization, then you can also figure out your individual position on where you want to go in that direction. And it's always going to come back around as well to the big question at the end of the day is, do you want to keep playing in the server or not? But these are steps that every server can take to at least get to work on getting to a starting line, right? Because you can't start anything until you know where the majority of the top alliances, if not all the top alliances, stand on certain things, right? It would be difficult for you to sit there or for you to tell the server, whether it's in World Chat or Kingdom Chat or even with other leads, hey, this is our faction's third of the map, so stay out of it, right? Or, hey, this is how we're going to do Titan Tula event, if you do not have, quote-unquote, the agreeance/blessing of the other top alliances. That's why you always have to get to the starting line first before you can start really doing anything else. Again, the only exception is if you come in to the server with a big enough group where you can, one, be that deterrent and also be that kind of that initial governing body that is able to start putting some of those things into effect because you are the biggest group, right? And if anyone, goes off script, right, then you can address it as such, hopefully diplomatically first, of course. But again, those are some things you can do in the beginning that I think are vitally important when you are looking to stabilize the server early. Does anyone have any questions in regards to that before we kind of move on to our next? And this probably might end up being a little bit shorter of a meeting than I probably anticipated. But yes, if anyone has any questions on anything I just touched on there, for some of the examples, some best practices I provided, please feel free. You're more than welcome to ask your question in the voice channel chat or raise a hand if you are a member of the server or have current roles. Let me see. Again, if you're new or just a visitor, we just ask you to please ask your question in the voice channel chat if you do have one. We're only going to be taking voice questions from existing members or ones with roles. Let me see. I think I just saw someone typing in voice channel chat. Let me just check. Oh, okay. Nope, someone is typing. I will wait just a moment. Okay. Never mind then. No worries at all. No worries at all. All right. We will move on to our, excuse me, next topic. Or I guess I should say next point within the topic. Where's my handy dandy outline that I had? Okay. Now let's talk about let's say you do, right, so now let's kind of talk about the positive end, or I guess the more progressing end, which is, let's say that you either out of two options, you either come into a server with a big enough group, and you're able to start defining a server's direction along with stabilizing the server, or your group of individual alliances has come to an agreement on things that you want to do, right? What are your next steps after that? Let me put the question to you, the players. Let's say you've came into a server with a big enough group, or you have already came to an agreement with let's just say the majority of the top alliances on certain directions that you want to go in. What are your next steps? Just any ideas. What do you do next? Right, let's say the gauntlet was just thrown down in court The verdict has been given. What is your next step? What do you do? Any and all thoughts on, again, what do you do after you know that you are either the biggest group in a server and you're going to be able to start implementing your goals and policies for events, or again, you have come together with the biggest group, with the biggest alliances in a server, and you've all agreed on how you would like to manage, let's just say, all the events, and you have a good idea on the direction you want the server to go in. What are your next steps? What do you do next? I mean, do we go, do we go to the beach on Hawaii? We go take a vacation? Yeah. Ben Barrow says Battle Royale. Okay. Yeah, hopefully not. Let's see here. Okay, Snowball says... Sorry, man, I'm only thinking of you as Captain Snowball. Pets is such a great movie. Okay, let me see here. Snowball says, get as many people on board as possible. Work out kinks. See what works. Communication. Okay. Okay. I guess a little broad in the response, but I do see kind of where you're going with that. I guess I'm looking for something a little more specific as far as a process, right? What do you do, right, for your server, right, after you have figured out the direction that the server is going to go in, how you're going to manage events? What do you actually have to do after that? Now, I will allow a few more guesses. Okay, so a few more people typing. I'm going to allow a few more comments before we provide in. Let me see. Okay, hang on. We're going to let one more person type some out. Okay, let's see. Ben Barrow said implement rules. Snowball said educate members. Zaxamillion said identify the major differences between alliances and the most influential players. The player base then needs to shift the spotlight around between the ecos and the empires involved. Okay, so what I would say is, I mean, all of those are pretty close and more or less kind of give or take on the spot. What I was really looking for was more of like the next thing we need to do would be to, type up a message. We need to either assign people or have one point person or lead person go out and then send however many of those template messages to every single leader in the server. Or the top 50, however many you want to go off of, right? So then you'd go to your leaderboard, you'd click on Alliance, click Contact Leader, copy, paste. You'd message all the leads, letting them know. You would draft a promo message that is 499 characters or less. You'd be promoting that in World Chat and Kingdom Chat. Maybe you send that a couple times a day. Eventually, when you get access to server mail, you would reiterate the same thing. You would be letting every single player in the server know, one, you've either come to an agreement, or two, this is what the rules are going to be for specific events. You'd inform the players, again, therefore educating them and letting them know how these things are going to happen, right? Those would be more of like the tangible next steps that you would take after figuring out those things, because now you've arrived at the starting line. And after doing so, now it's a matter of outreach, right? Disseminating information. How are you going to be able to reach as many players as humanly possible? Now, if you want to YOLO brick squad it, what you could do, and this is probably going to be one of the proest tips that I will give out during this session, is you could, it does take a lot of time, this is something we've done before, and I think we're probably close to doing now, is you could assign players per each district, or city district, in your server. And then, similar to how you would look for ruins, where you kind of use the book method, right? You'd go to a city district, you'd go up, you'd go up, down, left, right, or up, down, right, left. And then every single player you see in that district, you would send a message to. And that's if you really want to take it to the maximum level. Because that would actually ensure that you message arguably almost every single player in the server. Now, yes, this should be done with a team and probably should not be done by yourself unless you are no-lifing it. I can tell you I have done this myself for an entire province, and then I stopped. Mainly because it was a lot of work, and that was 9 cities. I mean, I probably messaged 1,000, 2,000 people maybe. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people I did. It took a couple days. But if you want to do it that way, that would be, again, and I'm saying this because of a few reasons. One, when you are direct messaged by someone, it shows up as green. So there's a higher notification chance that someone's going to read that or click on it than if they were to open up and read a server mail. Why? Because at the moment, there's no color notification for when a server mail is sent. Again, another great recommendation I'm going to put out in our next suggestion video, but that is something to point out. Again, players may, as most do, they'll just do the read all, claim all, and they'll go on about their day so they can get rid of the red notifications. I do feel that server mails should show up in a different color, and I think that would be an extremely big help. But still, even with that being said, not every single player is going to read server mail. So, if you really want to min-max to the complete and fullest extent, that is what you would do, right? You would go city district by district, you'd use the book method, and you would literally message every single player that you see one by one. Again, doing it with a team. But if you do that, you have a higher chance of ensuring higher player activity and more player retention prior to getting access to server mail. So anyways, yeah, that would be my again, couple tips there on specific in-game processes that you would go through after you have figured out that you're at the starting line and you can now start defining a direction for your server. Yeah. That's okay. I know it's pretty mad, Snowball. I'm pretty mad myself, so. But yeah, no, it's good stuff. Oh, I probably should have checked that. Oopsies. Oh, okay, no, that was good. Okay, let me see here. If anyone has a question on anything I just talked, Bab, what's up? A couple other people just checking in. All right. So I think that kind of covers the process portion for what you would do. Let me see if there's any other little subtopics I have here. feel like we've really talked about a lot. Let me see. Yeah, I feel like I've covered probably the majority right now. Are there any? I guess are there any general questions now? Right. So now I'm just going to open the floor up completely. If there's any general questions that have anything to do with server development, stability, defining a direction of a server, and or anything that we've covered or talked about, this is the time to ask. And I'll leave this open for a little bit longer. Because then I'm going to have to get over to our S79 Town Hall meeting that we have today in a little bit. So yes, and again, if you're just visiting or a guest, we just ask that you please write your question out in voice channel chat. We're only taking voice questions or call-ins from existing members on the server. But I'm just going to go ahead, I'll watch out. I'm just going to keep an eye out on voice channel chat, and I'll be going back and forth to see if anyone has their hand raised. But right now, if you're just joining, we're just kind of taking any and all questions that have to do with server development, defining a direction, stabilizing a server. This is the time to ask, to pick my brain. So, oh god, did we hit? Oh my gosh, wow, we're so close to Alliance level 4. Oh, let's get it. I don't want to do quick response. 111. Let me see. Stubble asked, what if there could be a round table comprised of the top 3 alliance of each respective faction as a hub for these kinds of things? So you mean more like a council? I guess if I was to put it in another way, Snowball. Like a council of either 1 representative per top alliances or 2 to 3 reps per alliance. So, oh, you mean, in the game. Yeah, I mean, that would be more of a future suggestion. What I would say is, those are things that, that a lot of organized and professional servers do. As an example, that was something that I tried to do when I went with my alliance into Server 6, along with reaching out to players, to leaders there to try and organize and define certain directions and events. We did that in Server 8 when I built the foundation there. When we came in with 8 alliances for the Jump project I organized, we were able to establish a council pretty early on. Where we invited leaders and officers from other top alliances, I think maybe around like the top 20, and then we brought them in to kind of start having those kinds of conversations. And then now in Server 79 with our 5 alliance jump group, we've already had a great opportunity at defining the direction the server's going in, along with a few other things that I briefly mentioned. But we did that as well. So like on day 2 and day 3, we messaged the top 75 alliances this time around, and we were able to get, as we still have many coming into the server, right, we have management chats set up, we have event channels set up to talk about specifically how certain events are going to be managed, what the events are. That kind of helps filter conversation. So yes, in short, I do think that is a great idea and is something I truly believe every server should be doing. Right, regardless if you come in with a pre-existing group or not, it's nice to have a central hub or place that everyone can talk, right? And then in addition, probably a good idea to add in a translator bot there, so that can help as well with any of the international conversation. Let's see here. 7. Nice. All right, let's do some invite alls. I love the invite alls. Sorry, there was another question, I think. Jesse asks, is there a benefit in letting in 136 players who say they are in the strongest server in Alliance migrate to your server? Jesse, are you referring to either Are you referring to either MG or Nuke, or are you referring to another alliance worth of players in another server? I would be shocked if my guess turned out to be correct. I mean, I can touch on kind of migration policies and what I would recommend doing if I were you, but kind of without knowing another. Oh, it's another alliance. Okay, say they want to have over 100 1 mil accounts migrate to us, but it seems more like an invasion. I mean, to be honest, what I would say is I don't think any server in the game right now has over 100 1 million plus accounts. So I would say either they're lying to you or they have players across other servers. But still, to assume, I shouldn't say assume, to to expect them to have over 100 1 mil plus accounts. I mean, I'll be honest, that it's a little far fetched. I mean, I don't even think Server 5 has over 100 1 mil accounts. They might have maybe 30. I'd say like 25 or 30, give or take. I'd have to go and look again. So again, I mean, 100 plus 1 mil accounts is not. So yeah, I guess maybe I can talk to you about that privately, as far as if you want to share any specific details. What I would say is, let me just kind of give you some general rule of thumb tips on what I would do as being someone who has been a migration department lead in a couple kingdoms and specifically focused on that for dramatic effect. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I guess with that being said, are you just asking generally like what to do about 136 players coming in, regardless of their power, or are you asking about players that are stronger or could be stronger that might need the cap raised than players you currently have in your server? Because that will depend pretty importantly, or I should say severely, on what I would probably recommend to you. So, and the reason why is because details matter. I mean, again, I can give you a couple broad examples. You said both. They basically want to move an entire alliance, but no alliance on our server can hold them all. Okay. Do you guys have a shell prepped? I would imagine probably no. Based on that response. Okay. Then got you. So basically at this point you have two options. You either split them up, whether it be into 2 or 3, or you would have to move and merge players from existing alliances and then basically open up a shell for them. Is that kind of where you're at? I would imagine that might be what you're kind of deciding between. Obviously pending if you let them in. But is that somewhat accurate for where you're at currently? Well, Araya, the other thing as well is that it's a matter of if they can even take them. It's not really about if they can let them in or not. I mean, yes, that is a point, but if they don't even have the capacity space to do it because they have active alliances, then it's really a matter of them having to make new alliances and then start from there if they don't have any active shells. But if they have an opportunity in 27 to open up cap space and an alliance, then you can do some maneuvering logistic-wise around to still make it work. I guess I'm curious there. You said I'm not sure. Okay. Well, so what I would say is this, without knowing the details. So typically, so let me tell you what I usually do. Anytime we handle big migrations like that, we always ask them for a spreadsheet or a list of all the players' names, the servers they're coming from, and then what their current Lord power level is. Right, and you could even ask them like what the strongest troop power level is as well. Now, in some other games, migration is taken very seriously, and because of that, the expectation is that you need to come prepared. If you want to migrate to a server, these are things that people in that server will ask of you. And so, in another game I've played where migration is very prominent, these are things that alliances already put together ahead of time to provide servers, so they can really take a look at these things. That would be my recommendation to you. Would be to ask them for all the player names, the servers they come from, or the servers they're currently in, their lord power, or their highest historical power, and then also their highest troop power. March is those are the 4 things I would ask from them that they need to put together in a spreadsheet for you, as that would probably be easiest unless they have another way. And then what I would do is I would probably get into a call with the reps of the groups, or I guess if it's one group, right? I would definitely reach out to whoever the lead is, or the rep or reps of that group. I would get into a voice call. I'd get into a voice call with them, and then from there, what I would do is I would reach out to them, so that way you could make sure that you are. Oh gosh, what's the word I'm really thinking of and looking for here? You would want to make sure that you have a good feel for how they are able to, one, work with you, what their plans are. Why do they even want to come to server 27, right, or any server for that matter? I think those are important conversations you need to have. I've organized, I can give you an example from one migration effort that I've organized before, which essentially is when I was in another Kingdom Builder, one of the things that I did was we would get in with group leaders, and we'd have, 30, 45-minute voice calls essentially on anything in regards to, well, again, it could be us just getting to know them, what's their playing experience, where have they came from, what other games have they played, have they led alliances before, have they led groups, right, anything like that. I think those things are really important to talk about, because if you get a good head start on where they're coming in, especially if it's just leads, then it's really good for you to be able to weed out and filter any of the red flags, right? It's always good to talk to people in voice, in my opinion, over text, because you really get, I would say, a good feeling for, one, who are they? And does their tone give you any kind of feeling or, like I said, red flags? So again, ask for those 4 pieces of information, and then I would say try to get into a voice call with those players, so that way you are able to get a better idea on how those things can play out, and get a better feel for those players as well. Because like I said, it's really important to know why they want to come there, and then what their goals are as well. You need to ask them, what do they want out of a server? And then you can take it a step further, and after you get those player names from them, you can then go and you can then go and interview those players as well, right? Or sorry, not interview them, but you can then go and interview the servers they were in, right? That's the next big thing you really should do. Again, it's going to take work, but I would strongly recommend doing that, because if you go to their home server, like wherever the leads are, so wherever the group leads have played, or wherever the majority of players are coming from, when you find that information out, go to that server, make an account there, message the other leaders and other officers in that server and ask them, hey, how was this alliance here? Right? What were their goals? Right? What did they do? Were they just attacking people? Were they actually cooperating and it's just a difference of opinion and that's why they're leaving? Doing background checks on players, especially when you have a big group or a big player coming, is extremely important. So I would say those are a couple things I would recommend doing before you arguably let someone in. And I'll probably make a video on this. These are just a couple soft points that I'm really touching on right now. And we'll probably even do another big weekly session on this topic too. But I at least hope that some of that helps out. in that regard. Yeah, Snowball. Yeah, it happened. It happened. Thanks, Goga. He's our hero. Yeah, it happened. It happened. Gosh, I can't remember. I think it might have happened last week or a week before. That someone was doing that as far as on using one of the bots and coming in. So, but Goga's our hero. So, sorry, but yeah, I hope that answered some of the stuff though, Jesse, or at least helped. Help provide some kind of next steps that you would want to apply before you let in a big group. I'm always happy to take extra time and talk about those things because, again, not a lot of players have experience in bringing in big players. Oh, sorry, did someone ask me another question? Thank you for the reping. Let me see here. See everything burn. Sorry, someone asked me something else. Let me see here. Sorry, same alliance. Araya's in the same alliance you are? Is that what you meant? Araya asked, but should a server even let a group in? She's like, yeah. Get it, girl, get it. But should... Let me see, sorry, but you said, but should a server even let a group in that has bigger people than the server itself? So... Yeah, I'm going to be honest. My recommendation there would probably be no. Unless you know the people. Unless you have some kind of relationship with them, some history with the leaders of the groups, or whoever the reps are of the groups. I would say that would be the only exception, right? If a group wants to come into your server that is stronger than your strongest players, I would say that's just a hard no, right? The only very, very small exception, I would say, is if you personally know these people. You've played with them in other games, you have some kind of an established history, and, the people that are leading the groups wouldn't, steer you astray. I would say that. But that probably is going to be the 0.001% chance, or a situation that may come up. So yeah. But definitely let me know if you can, Jesse, in private. I would be really curious. Obviously, just between us, but I would be curious to know which alliance and where they said they're from, or are from, as far as wanting to migrate. So mainly because my initial thought was that it was probably server 5, just because there are some rumblings that I've been hearing. But obviously nothing's been pulled yet. But that's going to be another big one as well, right? That's like, man, get your free agency market on, kind of a thing. So I mean, and again, man, and that's some of the cool stuff, some of the really awesome, exciting, game news, internally within that I think can get people really hyped for. Something that I think would be good content coverage on, I mean, honestly, I should turn a cam on and do a draft night where we're the Infinity Kingdom free agency draft presenting server 5, 11, and 17, right? Just something like that. That would be dope. I would totally love to do some sketch, a sketch out of that. That could be awesome. Maybe if I ever revamp my room, or my office and do something like that in the future. So, Geed, what's up, man? This is a weekly educational series show that we do for Infinity Kingdom, which is a mobile RTS strategy game, or a kingdom builder for short. So, he's like this one. My word, and for the red IB they choose, King Jesse. To hear the answer to this one. Oh, sorry, thanks, Snowball. Erwin said something? Erwin said, my server has been trying to work towards server unity. However, the top red and blue alliance they made are refusing unity unless they get the best of anything. The top red and blue have made any tips or tricks. They could easily be destroyed, which has been considered, but we don't want that. Erwin, can I ask what server you play in? if Erwin is still here. Okay, oh, he is here. Oh, you're at 55? Oh, sick. Hang on, I think I have an account there. Let me load up my instance. One sec. God, finally. Finally, a server I have an account in. Yeah, I think I'm at 56. Okay, so you said the Red Alliance made the Blue Alliance. How many do I have so far? I think I have 56 accounts in the first 56 servers. They're all at Castle 11, which you need to have it at if you want to look at Arena. So, but yeah, I'm hoping I can try and pound out maybe like 10 more accounts today. We'll see. I usually always have at least one instance up. I mean, I'm usually running like 5 or 6 accounts at once, but that's neither here nor there. So, let me scoot this over here to the screen. But yeah, I'll take a look at a sec once I load up my my scout instance that I have. 1-1. Can I upgrade this some more? Oh, I can. Nice. For real. Let me get out of here. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Let me. Okay. So, sorry. In short, what you're saying is that the Green Alliance is the strongest alliance, and or sorry, I guess either Green's the strongest faction, or the the top Green Alliance is the strongest alliance, and then Red and Blue basically just want to watch the world burn. Or sorry, you said they made they made a refusing unity unless they get okay. Okay, give me actually, you know what? Give me 1 sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, okay. I am back. Oh gosh, thanks for waiting. Man, I could not. Sorry, I was waiting for something for a while, and I was not expecting for it to come this early, and did not want to miss my opportunity to receive my package. So, anyways, we are good now. Sorry, let me get back to. Everyone's like, "Oh, thanks so much for the kind wishes." Let me get back here because I know I do have our other meeting we have to get to shortly. But let me hang on one sec. I finally loaded my stuff up, and you said 55. Okay. Not pizza. No, it wasn't pizza. But it was something important that I was waiting for, so just kind of had to talk to the person, got a sign for it, so it just took a little bit longer than had anticipated. All right, I'm just loading up server 55 right now. Give me one sec. Ooh, please don't tell me I have to build this dragon thing. I'm probably gonna have to. Okay. Let me see. So, Erwin, I'm just reading from where you left off. I have already probably used 200. Oh, wow, that's a lot. One Red Alliance and one Blue Alliance. The Blue Alliance was made by Red, are the troublemakers. Green is by far the strongest, but we don't want to destroy the Red Alliance and Blue Alliance if possible. They have a lot of good members, just terrible leadership that they follow blindly. Okay. So what I would say there is... Okay. What I would say there is that if the situation is that dire, I imagine you guys have already reached out then as well, as far as to the other, I guess, to the Trouble Alliances to try and do any form of diplomacy, and I imagine it's just not there. Oh, be ready for a toxic world chat? Nice. Let me see the toxicity. Let me see. Okay, gotcha. Well, it's okay. I appreciate the, I appreciate the filtering. Let me see. Okay. Sec, I'm just clicking stuff. Okay. I'm just looking at, pineapple on pizza is so good. Okay, let me see here. How does the map look? You guys are still pretty... Okay, so it's a 1/3 map split. That's pretty standard. Let's see, rankings. I can't look at rankings! I'm like one level below. How unfortunate. Okay, can you post a screenshot of ranks if you're in-game, Erwin? Of just like the top 5, I think is fine. If you want to go top 10, you can. But yeah, so I mean, but I guess with that being said, no, not yet. Almost. So I was waiting while I was doing my 56. So yeah, I mean, you know, what I would say is there's probably a couple options, right? If Green is by far the strongest faction, and let's just say let's just say Green has the strongest alliance, and it really would be pretty effortless to kind of quell any kind of rogue-ish behavior between that Red and Blue Alliance, then my recommendation would be, let me say this, preface this as well. If you've already tried to be diplomatic and you've tried to either reach out to them on Discord, get into a voice call, have any kind of text conversation, and just and let's just say you've exhausted all options and nothing's getting anywhere, then at that point I would then say it's probably like propaganda time, which is where, and I don't really know if I'd say propaganda, well, I mean, to an extent, but really just more informing. I would say you probably should just start messaging all the players in those alliances and just let them know the situation. Like, look, we're trying, whether you say, like, we're trying to, build some unity here in the server. The alliance that you're in right now, the leader is opposed to that. They just want to fight. There is a chance that it may come to that. If so, if you do not want to be in harm's way, if you do not want to be attacked 24/7, we recommend you leaving the alliance and joining another one. You can even provide suggestions on other alliances to join. Okay. So which red? Is it ID and Sage? Is that who I'm looking at? It's basically ID and the MBL against everyone. ID. Okay. Can you show me the top 10 on True Power? Please? Because, yeah, I guess MBL's not really anything to worry about. Okay. And then I guess while you're grabbing the top 10 True Power picks, can I ask if, and of course just responding at your next chance, is it safe, so when you say everyone, it's safe to assume that Sage, NM, and PvP are kind of allied, or aligned with you, or basically against them? Yeah, man. I feel like I just need to do like a session next week where people are like, here's my problem, what would you do? You know, kind of a situation. So, okay, number 1, 4, 5, 7 are also... Okay, got it. So everyone is allied except ID and MBO. Okay, so ID... okay. I mean, I'm looking right now. One sec. Okay, interesting that the... Okay, so ID... Okay. Yeah, wow. I don't know, just kind of interesting that Phoenix, even though you guys are number 1, you guys have 3 players only at 8. I mean, not that that's right, not that that's uncommon. That can happen. Okay. So there's 2 ID players, 1 at number 6 and 1 at number 2. Okay. And I would imagine, so my next big question here then is it safe to assume that everyone on the top 10 for True Power is against ID and the other guys? Right, so meaning, and probably most importantly, right, you're number 1, you're number 3 guy. I mean, basically on this top 10, with the exception of the number 2 and the number 6 player, which are ID, is it safe to assume everyone else on this top 10 board is against them? As in, me saying they are willing to fight them. Okay. Okay. So Stryker is kind of neutral? Well, I guess, would that be a fair assessment, or is he actually with them? Oh, he is. Okay. Okay. Got it. So basically you have number 2, number 3, and number 6. Okay. Okay. What I would say here then is, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting because you're in a situation where, which is actually kind of similar to what we had in Server 36. I don't know if you've watched any of my videos on Server 36 on kind of how to deal with rogue alliances, tips or best practices. Did you watch any of those, or are you familiar with those? If not, I obviously will definitely point you in that direction as well, because there's some fantastic content on how to deal with them. Oh, you've watched part, okay. So yeah, I mean, there's at least 2 to 3 videos that I put out on how we dealt with actually 3 rogue alliances, how we were able to kind of dwindle them down to 1, the type of pressure we applied on them in multiple areas, whether that be on events, on their players, on limiting city caps, limiting rewards they got, you know, blocking their players, blocking players in Kingdom Chat to apply psychological pressure. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do in game. What I would say is, kind of given your situation, it is a little reminiscent of what we did in 36. What I would say is, let me ask you this: how well do you know Legend as the number 1 player? And is he someone that really believes in the cause for the server? As in, is he really willing to, like, you know, like if I'm going to use a one of my favorite movie quotes of all time from Ready Player One, right? Is he ready to zero himself out for the Oasis? God, where's my GIF of that? I love that GIF. Okay, cool. You said myself, Legend, and the number 12. Okay, no. Okay, got it. So we're going back. Okay, got it. So we're going Mighty Ducks, Coach Bombay, Bash Brothers. Okay, cool. No, you're selling me hard. So okay. What I would say then, if that's the case, that is really good, because you need. I would totally quote their names, but I can't remember. I feel bad. But yes, so what I would say is, if you have that, then you're definitely in a better position than if the number one player was not willing to do that. So my recommendation then would probably be to go and watch some of those videos that are, and give me 1 sec. Let me see if I can even find, 1 sec. Oh God, excuse me, I should have muted myself. Okay, yeah, because I did a whole weekly episode on this actually a couple weeks ago, where we talked about it. And I'm just going to go ahead and link a few of them in here. These are, this is some quality content here that I put out that probably no content creator across any Kingdom Builder game has ever done. And yes, I'm happy to put myself on that pedestal personally. So let me see. I think there's 2 other videos. I'm just trying to look right now. I think I have 2 others here. So here's another, and okay, awesome. And then here's, okay, cool, awesome. So here's the last one. So these are 4 videos. I'm just going to link. These are all related to kind of dealing with rogue players, rogue alliances, tips on how you can address them. The TLDR that I'll give you based on your situation is, if it's gotten to that point, then what I would recommend doing, just because I'm going to have to go after this because I got to prep for our S79 Town Hall, which is going to start here in 12 minutes. But what I will say is, based on your situation, my recommendation really would be to try and, the thing you have to do first and foremost is you have to get everyone on board, right? You have to have realistic expectations for, what you're going to get into. Right, which is probably going to be a period of, possibly long drawn out fights, and wars. So one, you have to set the expectation, and so again, right, that means you have to reach out to the leads. You have to let them know that, look, if we decide to go down this road and we fight, right, then, again, right, my recommendation is, again, try and have it be like a first strike, where you really plan out what you're going to do to make a statement before you do anything. But it has to start with a conversation, right? You have to reach out to the other leads. You have to let them know, like, this is what we're going to do. Everyone has to be on board, and then you start applying those best practices, right? Your greatest advantage is that you have more alliances than they do, right? Never let that advantage slip away. From there, you would then, like I said, reach out to the leads, again, see where they stand, if they're really ready for that. Because again, the more numbered of alliances you have, the better position you're going to be in. And that's going to help you just in the long run. And again, I talk about that in some of my videos as well. And that's mainly because, one, the more alliances you have, the more cities that you're able to hold, and then also the more cities you can potentially give to other alliances as well, if you kind of want to look at it in an advanced way. After that, right, it's really a matter of just basically constantly attacking them, right? 24/7, like 7-Eleven, right? You need to hunt them, like, ferociously, but you have to be smart about it, right? You have to make sure that you're really assessing, like, this is the thing, killing off the core or the body, of an alliance activity-wise is easy enough. Because usually the majority of like the middle or the average players, right, are going to be iffy on whether or not they fight. It's really going to be the top players, right, the spenders. Those are probably going to be more or less your more active ones. So targeting them, right, like again based on your boards, right. My first recommendation to you would be, oh god, I can't even look at it. Hang on, I got to scroll up for the pictures here. Yeah, my first recommendation would be look at someone like Flying, look at Striker. I would literally assign people on like a 24/7 clock rotation across the next couple days to find out when their active times are. When are they consistently online? When are they consistently offline? And that is when you target them. In addition, right, apply server-wide, spread out practices, right, where people are spreading out 20 to 30 kilometers. Oh, you have already been fighting. Okay. You said Flying is no longer active. He hasn't been on for 3 weeks. Oh, man, and that's great. In that case, you're really basically dealing with Striker then at that point. So, yeah. I mean, you know, I guess it depends. Like, if you really feel like you need to do a war, and like you really need to like apply server-wide war policies, or I guess based on what you're saying, well, maybe it's easier to do than that. If that's the case, what I would do is I would just message all their players. Honestly, I would just message all their players and let them know, like, look, this is the situation that the server is in, right? We want to, kind of going back to what I said initially, right? We want to try and unify. We recommend leaving the alliance and not being there. Otherwise, there is a chance that you may come under attack, mainly because your leader and whomever group of leaders wants to do nothing but just fight and disrupt the server. We do not want you to have a bad gaming experience here. On the contrary, actually, we want you to have a great gaming experience. And it's going to be difficult for you to do that if you're going to have to constantly be fighting and wasting resources. Right, so I would do something like that, message all their players, and then I would say start addressing the troublemakers. So if you need to start making an example, and again, you know, message all the players. Again, if you've already exhausted diplomatic options as far as messaging the leads, then the next step, and you know really where they stand, then yes, the next step is message every single one of their players, right? Draft up a nice template message, something easy you can copy paste. And then if Striker, as an example, is a nuisance or is really kind of showing himself as, you know, a kind of rogue, then yeah, I would just say blacklist him and just put him on a 24/7 watch list. Right, where you pay attention to finding out his online times, his offline times. You could probably figure that out in a couple days or a week at the most. And then it's just a matter of pinging him 24/7, right? So you just have players always watching out or looking out for him. Anytime they do, right, they post that in some kind of like a blacklist channel or a PvP Chords channel, and you just hit him all day, every day, no matter what. Right, and just, you know, have fun with it. So, you know, put some bounty boards up. I don't know. Put some hype chats. Every time you hit them, everyone posts chats. And then hype emojis. I mean, whatever you guys do to spice it up. Or what you might do to spice it up. But like I said, I don't know I don't know the exact situation in your server, but that's just my general recommendation. Oh yeah, see, so you already know then. So there you go. You already got his offline times. So yeah. I mean, again, if anything, now it sounds like it actually might be a little easier than that based on what you're saying. And if it is, then yeah, that's my recommendation for next step. Message all the players in those alliances, let them know what the situation is, how you don't want to cause them any harm, and you recommend them leaving the alliance because there is a chance that you might just start attacking all the players in that alliance just because there's more than one or a few that feel that way. So, yeah, and then, again, more importantly, also suggest them an alliance to go to. But, yeah, I mean, if it's not that bad, then, you know, you're probably in a better situation than maybe I initially thought after conversating for a little bit longer here. But, yeah, and then, you know, anything beyond that, you know, just feel free to DM me. So, you know, the one thing I always tell anyone that plays IK, right, I always try and make myself available, you know, anytime I can. Even if I'm not able to reply to you immediately, you know, anyone is more than happy to reach out. So, oh, of course. No, man, you're more than welcome. All right, with that being said, I got 4 minutes until my next meeting, because that's all I do on Tuesdays is just meetings. Gaming has corrupted my soul and taken over my life. So, I am at least for the time I have available today. I have to get to that meeting. Again, anyone is more than welcome to join that. There is a link in my Discord tag from the members list you can find out, or if you go to the server and Jumper recruitment channel, any and all players are always welcome in our Discord server that we have set up for Infinity Kingdom, and then also for our S79 players. And we do town halls every Tuesday, pretty consistently. For the players that we have there. So that's it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed this week's session. I know we talked about a lot when it came to server stability, answered a lot of questions from the community as well. Really happy to get consistent engagement as we always do. That's the part that I live for. And I hope that at least some of you, if not more, found anything, even if it was one thing I talked about today in this show, valuable, educational, or at least something that maybe you didn't consider to know before. Right, I'm always happy when anyone can take away, even if it's just one new thing that they learned that might be able to help them out or give them a better mental approach to the game going forward. That is it from me. I'm going to go ahead and get over to that. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in wherever you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And take care.